Hello, I'm Glenn Brooks. I want to welcome you to the Vibrant Living Network here on PRN, and we're developing our network. So more stations, more places, and more just really wonderful people. You're listening to our series, which you could be a part of. If you ever get up at 3 in the morning and think, I love to grow younger, I feel like I want to be more in tune, I want to go beyond the program, things that kind of run me. You kind of have a sense that you're living not as fully as you can, and you can grow younger. Imagine the idea of growing younger. So, as an example, we're going to get into today your hips. A lot of people, hips are an amazing thing. They move us. They have a lot of power and energy. At the same time, people have hip issues, and they have fear potentially of breaking their hips. So we're going to get into that with my genius mentor, my uncle, Dr. Norm Shealy, who's been practicing. You know, Norm reminds me of Lisa Lewis, co-host and associate producer. Welcome.
Thank you.
And, Dr. Norm reminds me of this quote from Wallace Wattles. The original version, I always find the original versions of books, and the original version was in 1912, and how I was looking for this book, and I was sitting at the Divine Science Church in Georgetown. I wrote a postcard for this book because I wanted the original version, because someone said to me, sometimes when a book gets edited, some of the healing and creative spark gets removed. I thought that made a lot of sense to me. So that particular day, I wrote the postcard to this publisher, the guy Roy Eugene Davis, was publishing the unedited version. And Noreen Diamond, who I love to pieces, she was the librarian at the Divine Science Church, and she asked me if I could help clean up the library. Well, I would say yes to anything Noreen asked me. I just love Noreen so much. And so I was in the basement downstairs at the church, and the original version of The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles fell on my head. And Maureen told me it was a gift. So I kept reading that original version. So one of the things that I love about the original version is that Wallace says that what does he say? The world doesn't need teachers. We have way too many teachers. The world needs demonstrators. So when I think about Uncle Norm, his many associate degrees, and the fact that he did advanced schooling, and what strikes me the most is through the years he's been someone who's been a demonstrator. So it's not he has a theory about aging. He's reversed his own telomeres. He's lengthened them. He grows younger. His experiences in life and increasing our bliss and our ability to live life at the next level. So I want to encourage you guys to be a part of this, because it's not just something we talk about. It's something we live deeply. I'll start with this little story, Lisa and Norm. I went to one of my team members the other day, and I wanted, using some discernment, not to be that specific, but I went to one of my team members who helps me with something. I've been working with this guy for many years. He's wonderful, and I went to his beautiful piece of property the other day, and it had gorgeous gardens and grass, and so I was on the property because where I go to see him, there's not a bathroom. So I went to go use the facilities, number one, by the way. And I see his wife, who's usually not that cheery when she sees me. And she says, Glenn, have you gotten the vaccine? She kind of caught me by surprise, and I didn't say hello or anything. Have you got the vaccine? And I was thinking about how to answer this. And I said, well, I'm kind of researching. And she goes, before I can say it, she goes, you're an idiot and you're old. Two serious charges, you know what I mean? You're old and an idiot. I was thinking, what do I handle first? And then she said, well, you're after 40. And I said, okay, that's fine. And I said, in terms of the idiot part, I'm an undercover smart person, I thought I could say. I mean, what do you say when someone – but she was claiming I was an idiot because I didn't get this vaccination. And I was thinking, how much research did she do? So I want to start the show, Norm, by, it's a different kind of smartness to break from the pack. It really is. It really is. Earl Nightingale was saying, Lisa talked about Earl Nightingale. Earl talks about that, 5% of the leaders. It's the 5% that break free of the conformity. So if you're ready to break free of the conformity of degenerating as a way of life and accepting it, one of the questions I had sent today is also, what are the markers of growing young? But I want to welcome you in deeply and just tell you how honored and how full of love I am that you're here today. I love our meetings, and I'm beyond blissed out about having a whole community of people, not just, speaking about this, but living this together. Welcome, Uncle Norm.
Well, you are most welcome, and I would say, by the way, to that person who called you the idiot, she is beyond idiot. She is an imbecile. I think that's Laurel's the totem pole.
Well, what's funny about that is the other mechanic, who's a wonderful human being. He's a retired, psychology teacher. So he's a really wonderful human being. So I said to him, is it true that you got the vaccine? So, and he says, oh no. He goes, I wouldn't trust Dr. Fauci if he said that, he was a Caucasian white guy. He goes, I don't trust it. And he says, I'm inquiring. He goes, Glenn, please let me know where I could learn more. He was telling me that she kind of, breaks his chops about it, but he wasn't wearing a mask in there. And, she said to me, before you go to see my husband, put your mask on. I guess she's an imbecile. You weren't on the premises, Dr. Norm. You weren't on the premises when this occurred.
Well,
you were not on the premises.
I would have not been wearing a mask if I was on the premises. I despise them. I think they are part of the conspiracy to harm us, and they're only a small part of the harm, but still harm is harm.
Right.
And I don't like breathing through them.
Right. It's been a year and a half since this in mortal time or in linear time. And it's been quite a year and a half. I mean, I went to Best Buy today because the woman at Best Buy her energy, her prana. She's amazing. She's just a wonderful person. And I was there today, and I was just seeing so many people had now got conditioned to wearing masks. And I think even though today, supposedly if you got your vaccine, you could take your mask off. It's so freeing, by the way. It's not just freeing. I guess the thing is, the question I would ask is, where does our vibrant immunity come from? And do in fact, vaccines fulfill the promise of making us healthier? Because why are we getting vaccines that are not making us healthier? And what is it that actually underlies our vibrant immunity?
Well, the evidence to me is overwhelming that it is damaging to our DNA, among other things.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, there are some people who believe that if you have the vaccine, your life expectancy has now been cut to a maximum of 2 years. You've probably seen that.
No.
I have.
No, I haven't seen that.
Within 2 years, we'll know how many people are dead from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that, Glenn, what you're emphasizing is the fact that each person needs to really take some time to research and do the due diligence. So many individuals just, want to be spoon-fed. This is what you do, and they don't question. And it's not the way that I live my life. It's not the way you've always been an inquirer. And I know, Dr. Shealy, you have been an inquirer as well, and which is what has led you on the exploration to the vibrant health that you have. And, there was a doctor that I studied with, and he said, in the time that it takes me to convince one skeptic, he said, I can help 100 people. So, allow them, if they want to argue and tell me what's wrong, or in your case, Glenn, call you an idiot, God bless them, and you can say prayers for them and hold them in the highest light, that, they'll find the path to the truth, or at least the truth to start questioning things. Well, and you're not an idiot, and you're not old.
Thank you.
Vibrant.
Yeah, really, and I know.
Yeah. For as long as I've known you.
Yeah. No, this, what's been happening, and this is another part of, I think, that what you guys will enjoy about being a member, is that in this last series with Uncle Norm, and I have received a lot of, unusual, intuitive, and deeper soul song. My soul song, particularly around my son Michael, has really opened to another level, and I'm becoming aware of things. So I want to ask you about the patience that it requires to both heal and grow younger. There's it's almost like dropping our conditioning so we can listen to a different song. If there were two songs, one song is our conditioning, or our non-song, or our conditioning. That's another word I'm looking for. Counterfeit. And then there's this other vital song. For people being in this course, a lot of people are going to say, well, this person in my family broke a hip, or this person in my family had this happen. What would you say the first step is into the freedom of beginning this journey where you can grow young? If there was a first step, and there's probably many steps, what would be the first thing that you would share with people so they could begin to have this experience of growing younger?
Well, I would say the first step is to be more conscientious than 97.5% of people are.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, you must have 5 essential habits. I wouldn't think about, living a long time until I was ready to live.
Right.
And unless you have these 5 habits, you're not ready to live. And at the top of that list is a normal body mass index. That is a weight, body mass index, between 18 and 24. Now, 72% of Americans don't have just that simple one.
Mm-hmm.
Second is no smoking. 22% of adults still smoke. 1 pack a day shortens your life by only 7 years, 3 packs by 18 years. But it not only shortens your life, it makes you ill for half of whatever life you got left.
Mm-hmm.
Third, the average American consumes 2.2 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Unless you're willing to eat a minimum of 5, I mean, that's like breathing. 5 is you're almost alive by breathing. The average American gets 2.2. You need 8 to 10. Next is physical exercise. Only 10% of Americans get 30 minutes or more 5 days a week. I get 2 hours 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost
great.
as important to me as breathing and eating.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, sleep 7 or 8 hours every night. And, again, over 40% of Americans do not get that. So unless you're willing to have those 5 habits, I wouldn't think about living longer. I'd think about living. I'd start with just being willing to live, the will to live. Now,
so cultivating the will to live is the bottom line, to feel a sense of connection to life.
Exactly. Now, beyond that, even if you've got all those good habits, 90 years ago, we needed about 1 to 2.5 milligrams each of the basic B vitamins. Today, we need 25 milligrams, roughly 10 times more what we needed 90 years ago. And that is because of generalized pollution. Remember, 90 years ago, we didn't have increased radioactivity. Now we've got more radioactivity released into the world in the last 80 years than in the previous 5 billion. Secondly,
that's remarkable.
Pollution in general. Herbicides and pesticides now dominate the world. I don't think there's a remote island anywhere in the world that won't have glyphosate or poison Roundup on it, because it's picked up in the wind and rain. And 75% of all the rain that falls in the United States has Roundup in it. Well, if we're that polluted, the rain doesn't stop at our border. There's no way of stopping it from getting to every island in the world. And, of course, in this country, we still have the most horrible water in the world with fluoride in it.
Yeah.
Fluoride may be, in the long run, more dangerous than the Committee of 300. It has already reduced the sperm count from men from 150 million to 40 million. And when it gets to 20 million, we are infertile. And the rate we're going, we've got a maximum of 18 to 20 years before there'll be no more children. So forget about the Committee of 300. The stupid cities and aluminum industry and fluoride industry are doing it for us. And the dental industry.
I was going to ask you, so how did, I think John Kennedy was saying that he was one of the big dentists that kind of blew the whistle on this. But, I mean, for the most part, you go to most dental offices, and the formula is you always get fluoride because it protects the enamel, and that's kind of the conditioned. The regular dental office promotes apparently a significant lie and a pollutant that you're very concerned about. I know Dr. John Kennedy is. So this sort of happened. What I heard about this is I think during World War II when they did the research and found that there was a way to, I guess it was a byproduct of aluminum. It was one of the things they kind of came up with and sold it somehow, sold a lie of it, and it became kind of institutionalized. And then most people believe, if we were playing Jeopardy or something to save your enamel or something to save your teeth, it was this idea that this rinse. So very few dentists, I think I've met maybe 10 dentists that stopped using fluoride. And they don't seem to question, and the ADA, the American Dental Association, doesn't seem to question it. Another thing that just kind of slipped through the cracks, huh?
I consider the dental industry more evil than the tobacco industry.
Wow.
They hold out a license as a health professional. And actually, even before fluoride, they were poisoning us with mercury in the silver dental fillings.
Yes.
And mercury is one of the great poisons.
Right.
I mean,
so the truth is they created a standard of normal and safety and health and just basically said this was crazy. And I think to this day the ADA and mercury and amalgam fillings are considered acceptable.
Oh, yes, of course. They have never admitted publicly how bad it is. And they will certainly never admit how bad fluoride is. So, they are at the top of the list of Sidle America, death of America.
So,
oh well.
Okay, so
they sure could try.
I want to ask you this because when I asked people what they wanted me to ask you this week, something that over a year, a lot of people told me they'd want to grow stronger bones so they weren't susceptible to both hip injuries and breaking their hip. And then some people said, and I think this is a big one, they don't feel the power and wonder of the hips. The hips really are this wonderful gateway to movement and power. So I want to get your comment on activating the hips as a place of movement and grace and power. And then I want to ask you how that relates to making our hips both flexible and then the nutrients and kind of with your exercise, for instance, are your hips very flexible? Is that something that in your life, I'm going to guess you don't have the hips of someone would consider a normal person in their 80s, whatever the normal is. Not good usually.
All my joints are flexible to normal. Part of my morning exercise is isometric exercise. Isometric exercise is not only moving muscle against muscle, but taking every joint, tendon, and muscle to its maximum flexibility, if you will, against pressure. It started with Charles Atlas when I was 12 years of age. And I learned how to do it, and now I have a total body program. It starts with just 45 minutes of pressure against every movement possible in my body. Now, that's before I do the more vigorous exercise. The second is just move. Again, only 10% of Americans get a minimum of 30 minutes 5 days a week. I get 30 minutes every day on my Vibe machine, and not only am I standing on the Vibe machine, but I am moving my arms vigorously in circles while I'm doing it. And incidentally, I strongly recommend, I have no financial interest in it, there's a company called Confidence, CONFIDENCE, and you could buy one on Amazon for $250. It is one of the best things for those people who don't like to exercise, because you really need to move, and it moves your entire body, and it is at the top of my list for preventing osteoporosis. Now, vitamin D3 is second to that, but If you don't, all the vitamin D3 in the world won't do any good at all if you don't move.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, magnesium. Remember, 80% of Americans are deficient in intracellular magnesium. And we've known this since at least the 1960s. Magnesium is totally deficient in our soil. Cattle farmers know that their cattle die if they don't give them extra magnesium. Now, cattle have two stomachs. You know, they have a ruminant. It's also like a second stomach.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have but one stomach. We do not absorb magnesium well through the mouth because of all the other junk in our body. You could bathe in it or put the magnesium lotion on your body, on your skin. And that will cure and prevent all kinds of problems, including osteoporosis. Now, there's one other thing in addition to needing vitamin D3 and movement, and that is boron. Boron is just one of the essentials for making bone. And so the average adult needs somewhere between 9 and 12 milligrams of boron a day. Now, here I am at 88 years of age, and, you know, I fall occasionally, and I don't break hips because my bones are strong.
Right.
Now,
is that what happens when people...
I did break a hip when I was about 40 years of age because I did something stupid.
Goodness.
Well, I got on a wild horse.
Mm-hmm.
That'll do it.
I tried to get on a wild horse. I had one foot in the stirrup on the left, and the next thing you know, I was over his body on the right side with a fractured hip.
My gosh.
But that was healed within 6 weeks, and I was back at racquetball.
Yeah.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, I have a question, you know, and this I think goes along with the hips. As people age, you know, you start to see challenges with balance, and you start to see individuals that shuffle and they don't pick up their feet. And so I'm curious, Dr. Shealy, what you would suggest. Does this machine, the Vibe and the Confidence machine, make a difference so that people tend to not do that? Does it help with balance as well?
Yes, absolutely. That is, well, I've had a previous. They didn't have Confidence back when I got my first Vibe machine in 1994. I paid $2,500 for a Vibe machine back then.
Mm-hmm.
And it finally wore out a couple of years ago, and that's when I bought a Confidence. But it's so simple. Now, if you don't want to get a Vibe machine, get a mini trampoline. You know, one of the ones you just stand on. And if you are willing to balance on a trampoline, you get the same benefit. I just find it a little better overall exercise to use the Vibe machine while I'm moving my arms vigorously. I have difficulty jumping up and down and moving my arms vigorously at the same time.
I asked you on your 80... I'm sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, and that helps with the lymphatic system, too. Does it not, to help that drain?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's good for your lymph system, good for circulation. You know, it's good for the body and the mind.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, the lymphatic system was it? I think it's Thomas West. I met Thomas West started the what do you call it? It was a place to educate people around how the lymphatic system and lymphatic exercise. So the king of that was what they call rebounding or being on a mini tramp. And so the whole point was that people began to age because they got stagnant in the lymphatic system. And you could see that in people that we think are old, but they're not really old. They're just not moving. And so it collects in their legs. And I was talking to Lisa yesterday about the pain of dehydration. And I actually wanted to bring this up to you, Uncle Norm, because we're talking with Dr. Norm Shealy. You're listening to the Vibrant Longevity community. You could be a part of this. It's not something to think about. It's something to live and breathe. Well, we want to live and breathe with you so you can grow younger, more awake, and have this soulful community of people that are committed to these practices. And if you are a professional in the realm of healing and you want to have this deep experience and rejuvenate, we got some wonderful people that are going to be a part of this. I want to welcome you. What's your take on hydration? I had the honor of working with Dr. Batman Jolie, who his best-selling book, Your Body's Desperate Cries for Water, and he would always say to me, "You're not sick, you're thirsty. You're not sick, you're thirsty." And then I was talking to Lisa about a lot of times with older people, and there's a book about this called Elder Age, and it's a lot about when baby boomers not really. They basically put their parents in places where there's not much attention to hydration. They're getting a whole bunch of medications that are not correctly monitored, and they're not really getting the nutrients in the water. So I want to ask you around hydration.
Well,
in terms of hydration being, what's your take about hydration and what to drink to keep us fully hydrated? What makes a difference?
Do not drink city water if it's fluoridated. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's almost you probably be better off drinking beer if it wasn't made in a fluoridated city. But basically, the rule is you take your body weight in pounds and divide it by half, and you need to drink that much water every day. 100 pounds, you need 50 ounces. 200 pounds, you need 100 ounces. 150 pounds, 75 ounces of pure, non-fluoridated water. That's it. Now, you can have more if it's hot and you sweat more. It's okay to drink more. But it's not okay to drink less.
Okay.
Now,
all right, so my next...
My body weight is actually only about 130 pounds now.
Really?
I'm I used to be 5'11", Glenn.
Yes.
I have shrunk to 5.6.
Seriously?
Well, most people shrink 2 to 4 inches.
Okay.
I've shrunk more than the average person. My disc just degenerated, but I'm still moving. And so I used, when I was at my full height, I weighed 160 pounds.
Yes.
But I don't need that weight when I'm down to this height.
Yeah.
And so I drink in the morning. Within the first 2 hours while I'm doing my exercise and getting ready for breakfast, I've already had 3 glasses of water.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I finish breakfast, and I've had 4 to 5 glasses of water by 9 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to ask you about, so what I want to get to, and at least I want you to jump in, I want to ask you about types of water. So in the last, let's say in the last 15 years, I had a biochemist from Colorado I met who had he told me at the time this whole thing with ionized water was utter nonsense, and he had developed a water device. So that, let's say I'm going to get into some categories. So when I first got into, when I first met Paul Bragg, he had written a book called, I think it was called The Shocking Truth About Water. The Shocking Truth About Water. And Paul had said that the thing is that what's natural to us is distilled water. And he had a whole rap about why distilled water was natural to us and essential to when you fast, you only want to use distilled water. So he's my first significant influence about water, steam distilled water. And during that particular time, I was reading a book, How to Get Well, by Pavel Rola, kind of a European influence doctor, naturopath. And he said that, no, you really want spring water because spring water has the essential electrolytes, it has minerals. And then Dr. Norman Walker, who's quite a character, he wrote a book, I think in the 60s, called Become Younger. He was on a farm, and he was ailing in his late 50s. And he noticed that he just started to think about vegetable juices, and he developed a device, probably the best juicer of the time, maybe still is. It's called the Norwalk, which is it squeezes the vegetable juices out of the vegetables, and he felt that was a tremendous source. And then he wrote a book about water, basically emphasizing that distilled water wasn't good for us and that we need to replace these minerals. And I think he emphasized maybe it was a specific type of sea salt or something from the sea. So that was kind of an and then the next wave, there was a network marketing company that was selling this $5,000 ionizer, and it's called the Kangen. And I researched the Kangen. What I learned was, first of all, you could get it from Japan at half the price. You didn't need to buy it as a network marketing product. And the promise was with the Kangen, it would alkalize you. So you had a wave of people kind of selling people on the notion of alkalinity. At the time, by the way, Dr. Hunt said to me, Dr. Valerie Hunt, she said to me, Glenn, she goes, I'm really concerned that there's too much alkalinity and that some people need more acid. She says it's unusual. And there was a website called The Random Rat. The Random Rat, which talked about alkalinity and acid. So what it seemed to be what was happening, and people buy a lot of products based on this, that the notion of alkalinity, which keeps us from disease, that was the big sell. And then that kind of went in line with the iodized water. And the spring water people were still saying, no, you need water that actually makes contact with the rocks. And so spring water was the ultimate water. You have any comments about the type of fluid or water that's essential and how it makes a difference?
Well, again, yes, I don't like distilled water. I think it's an obvious waste.
Okay.
I happen to live in an area where the water is extremely hard. That is, we have a great deal of calcium and magnesium, but mostly calcium, in our water. And so, interestingly, the pipes in this house, which my home was built in 1938, I've been on only the last 38 years, but the pipes have been a constant problem of plugging up because of all the hard water. I had just 2.5 weeks ago, I had to have a plumber out, and he replaced a whole bunch of pipes, and he brought me an ionizer for our whole system.
Yes.
$1,000, and it supposedly, for some reason, helps to stop the sluggishness of naturally hard water. And I can tell a difference already in the way that things flush away and wash away. The pipes are running much better. So, but my office is in town, which is stupidly fluoridated, and so I have a Kangen, Kangen.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what we drink at the office.
Kangen was burning hot maybe 10 years ago. That was a very hot unit. I researched it and just found there was other units that were much less expensive. But that was a very hot, they would have water parties, and people would bring up all kinds of fluids, and they would test them for alkalinity. So what was did you notice a difference in your health, or do you recommend iodized water? Ionized water.
Well, I actually bought a Kangen once, and I gave it to somebody else because I didn't find it per se made any difference to me, feeling-wise.
Okay.
But on the other hand, be careful about so-called bottled water, because remember, most bottled water comes out of cities.
Yeah.
Well,
and the city water they use in their bottled water is fluoridated.
Yeah.
So well over 50% of bottled water has fluoride in it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm trying to maybe associate with Mountain Valley. There's a few companies that have claimed they've had, well water or Argentinian well or a spring water standard for many years, and they bottle in glass. Would you consider that the highest standard to be in glass and then spring water?
Glass definitely better than plastic. But I also want to warn people about, the damage of aluminum cans.
Yeah.
Somewhere on the internet it claims that most cans are plasticized. I ain't found it. I have checked beer, Coke, Pepsi, all kinds of things.
Yes.
I haven't found any that are plasticized inside. And I'm sure plastic's that much better. But aluminum is very toxic.
Right.
The aluminum industry is one of the evils of the world, in my opinion. I don't even have aluminum foil in my house. I don't want that stuff on my food.
Right. I think there was that famous book. Did you ever see the famous book about the traveling cookware salesman? Where he says he would sell aluminum cookware door to door, and he'd go back, and people had gotten really sick, and he finally put it together. It was the aluminum cookware.
Oh, yeah. Aluminum is not a normal substance for our body.
Right.
Oh, well, can't all be perfect because they could try.
Right.
I'm Glenn Brooks. You listen to prn.fm. You could find an updated version of all my shows in this wonderful format, which is something you could join. It's the Vibrant Living or the Vibrant Longevity Community. And you could, rather than think about it, read about it, you could be a part of it. You could grow younger each day and do practices such as the upcoming autogenic exercise, which replenishes, rejuvenates, and allows your body to replenish based on eliminating some of the excess tension and distress that you unconsciously carry. A lot of people are walking around in an ongoing state of a chronic emergency or an acute emergency, and they go to the doctor and and this is where we start to degenerate. We start to take drugs or things that toxifies our body, and that's our normal way of life. It's not regular to take all these medications. This particular autogenic exercise, which you'll experience in a moment, we just ask you, as you're about to experience this, is to not be driving, to not be distracted, to put your easy attention on the exercise and let it wash through you. And become aware of your body. That's an unusual thing. A lot of times we walk around, we're not really aware of our bodies. And I want to thank Michael, my son. I could feel his presence so much for my life. He passed away, but my ongoing practice is to allow his wisdom and the love that we share to transcend this whole notion that he's died and that he's living in my life. So if you've experienced a great loss, this is another wonderful exercise to assist you with the genuine health that's in you beyond your tremendous grief. So here it is, the autogenic exercise. Just grab a chair and be in a place where you have some quiet. And in our Vibrant Longevity community, we're going to practice this twice a day for 18 minutes. So this is an abbreviated version. Enjoy it.
Okay, so I always like to start by doing a quick scan of my body to feel the sensory awareness of every organ and part of my body. So I usually start at the feet and the legs and the pelvis and the back and abdomen and the chest and the shoulders, arms and hands and the neck and the head. You know whether everything feels good and okay and relaxed, or how it feels, or whether there's any stress, etc. So then as you breathe in, repeat the words and pause, and as you breathe out, repeat the other words. First thing you do then is you say, as you breathe in, my arms and legs, and as you breathe out, are heavy and warm. My arms and legs are heavy and warm. My arms and legs are heavy and warm. My arms and legs are heavy and warm. My heartbeat is calm and regular. 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 My breathing is free and easy. 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 My abdomen is warm. My abdomen is warm. My abdomen is warm. My abdomen is warm. My forehead is cool. My forehead is cool. My forehead is cool. My forehead is cool. My mind is quiet and still. 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 I am at peace. I am at peace. I am at peace. I am at peace. And once again, just take that scan of your body. How does each part feel? Is each part joining all the others in deep, pleasant relaxation? This particular tool is the greatest thing in the world for anxiety and coping with, handling, and not responding overly to stress. Actually, I only have to repeat the phrases one time. But I've been practicing it since 1972. That's when I trained my brain. And so I only need, most of the time, every once in a while I'll do 4 phrases. If I'm having an unusually tense day, I may do 4 phrases. But that's all you have to do to get back to blissful relaxation.
It is blissful. It's something I look forward to every week.
Yes, and it's cumulative. And the practice after 3 months, I think Norm was saying for 80% to a very high percentage of people, that would be a remedy for your blood pressure, as an example, rather than be on chronic blood pressure medications and have all the side effects of those medications, which are unpleasant and degenerative.
Actually,
so this is a way out.
Chemotherapy is the only group of drugs that may be worse than antihypertensive drugs. Antihypertensive drugs control blood pressure if you take up to 3 of them in 45% of people. That means 55% of people get no benefit whatsoever, and almost 100% of people taking antihypertensive drugs wind up after a few months with chronic fatigue. And if you're a male, they wind up with erectile dysfunction, but they don't have the energy anyway. So
very unpleasant.
I can control 99.9% of the time blood pressure problems with no medication and wean people off the junk.
I guess that's the whole thing in our cultures. We don't ask questions. We just kind of hit onto the conveyor belt, and then it's kind of like the pharmacist gives us a brief warning if you read the warnings on the package. But it's like once you're around, the challenge is once we become in the realm of normal or terminal normality, it's just that we get into these things, and rather than taking these really beautiful practices, the investment and the autogenic exercise is so simple and profound and so different than being passive and risking the other things that happen when you live with acute tension and acute distress. Growing Young is a different mentality. I'm Glenn Brooks with the Vibrant Living Network here on PRN on Expanding. My new website is going to overview everything. It's coming up. It's going to be called Beyond the Formula. I'm dedicating it to my son, Michael Brooks. And I wrote a letter yesterday to Julia Cameron. She had the best-selling book, The Artist's Way. And I said to Julia, 24 years ago when I was driving on the Mass Pike, you said on your tapes that if your college professor tells you there's no way you could be a writer, quit now. You have no ability to be a writer, or your college, your high school teacher says, get out of writing. She says, I could assure you, you're a writer. I remember listening to that and thinking, like, wow, it's so different. And we get taught these notions early on, and they become this, like, frame of reference. And then we kind of, as Earl Nightingale says, that most people think about their vacation more than they think about what their life mission is. Like their vacation for a week is much more, they put more focus on that. So it's quite something else to really begin to develop these conscious practices. So in our community, in our Vibrant Longevity community, we're going to share about these practices. And I'm a facilitator. I started facilitating classes and workshops when I was in my early 20s. The first thing I did was called the Feeling Great Club at Stony Brook University. And people would report all kinds of benefits, getting away from medication. And I would have people do the simplest practices, just breathing exercises, gazing, things that were uncommon yet profound. That's when I found Dr. Shealy's book at a used bookstore in Greenfield, Massachusetts. I want to say 34 years ago, I picked up your book, Norm. And I was excited because I was so hungry for something very different, because all my mother told me he was a college graduate. She graduated at Delphi College. But I felt she conveyed to me that the pediatrician was like God, and she thought always I get an ointment or something from the doctor, but I didn't really even question health. I had no idea what health was, and I know my grandfather, who I loved to pieces, and I felt like I could actually be around him. I wouldn't get hit like my father. I felt he had some sanity. He was an electrical engineer who was self-employed, but he had serious diabetes, So I remember when he would come over, they would hide the pies and the sugars. And when my grandmother died, who I never saw stand up, never, she was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and I would go to the hospital because they would put her in a therapeutic pool and lower with a, some kind of harness. But I never learned what health was. I never knew what it was. I just felt like, it seems like a lot of what happens in my family of origin is we manage things through medications. And when I read Bernard McFadden, he said that he saved the governor's wife in New York probably back in the 40s, and he threw away all her medications, and he had the windows open. And I started to realize, oh my God, there's a different way to go about this than kind of on this degenerative story that everybody seems to buy into. Like in this area, there's a lot of people who are part of HMOs. They see the doctor for 10 minutes. They sign up for the medications. They say maybe it's a good idea to walk, and then that's it. So if you want to go beyond the formula and start something different, it's great to have a momentum of camaraderie. And we'll have the camaraderie. I'll be available, 2 days a week at least, and I want to energize you. I want you to bring this into your life, and I'm committed to. I'll be practicing my autogenic exercise. Lisa will. There's no question Norm will. He's done it for, 34 years now? 35 years of practice?
Actually, it's 49 years.
Okay, updated credit. What's the most exciting thing? Now, I know you told me you're a tremendous reader. What's something you read this week, over the last couple of weeks, that excited you in the field of health and longevity? Is there anything you read that you thought, oh my God, this is worth noting?
Well, interestingly, it is about BUN, blood urea nitrogen. And I read a long article about how it's the ratio between creatine and the BUN that is important. And you can have a very high BUN, but it doesn't mean kidney failure as long as your creatinine is low. To me, that's fascinating because I always have been concerned that it might mean early kidney failure.
Yes.
But it doesn't. It all depends upon how much protein you get and how many antioxidants you're eating and all that combined.
Any discoveries, like as an example, like what's been the rage the last, I say couple years at least, is the ketogenic diet. A lot of the big names, Dr. Marcola, a whole bunch of people have written books with the viewpoint of eating a diet that is almost zero carbohydrates, that's very focused on root vegetables and low glycemic, and kind of it's almost more extreme than a paleo diet. What's your take on the ketogenic diet as something that would not just be curative but regenerative? If you guys are either practicing or reading about it, what would you say about the ketogenic diet?
Well, it's good. It's certainly okay. Yeah. The average person is getting too much junk, just plain old junk. I mean, let's face it, what is junk? Wheat. I consider wheat one of the worst foods in the world today because it has triple glyphosate on it. Right. Second is sugar, of course. Third is white rice. White rice is almost as bad as sugar.
Really?
And, of course, and white potatoes, regular old Irish potatoes, really are primarily carbohydrate with almost nothing else. Mm-hmm. And so those are really, but of course the biggest problem is monosodium glutamate. Not only do Asian restaurants have white rice as the dominant food there, but they also put monosodium glutamate in it, which is a poison. But I want to point out that most Campbell's soup is not good, it's crud, because it's loaded with monosodium glutamate. And Progresso soup also has monosodium glutamate in it. It's a poison to your brain. It's addicting and poison. But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, the play goes on.
You know what happened? I had a fulfillment in my life. I had something unfold in my life that was just remarkable. When I was in my teens, one of my aspirations was to play an exhibition match with the former number one player, Guillermo Vilas. And through a series of miraculous events, he was in Chicago, and I told the tennis pro that I had this vision of putting it together a program with Vilas that would be about how to really play like the pros, not just got taught conventionally. And through anyway, he set up to have me to have a conversation with at a cocktail party. And we talked, and I told Vilas my vision. I grew up watching him on TV and in stadiums. And finally, we put this retreat together, and this place in Vermont gave me $20,000 to kick this off. And it all kind of came together in the right moment. And I told the retreat, I said, we don't want any sodas, no diet sodas, no sodas, spring water. And someone brought with some kind of pure berry juice. And so Vilas, when I met him, he was totally addicted to diet sodas. He had him bring up a whole bunch of Diet Cokes. And in this last 2 years, the great, they used to call him the Bull of the Pampas. He was so strong. He won some tournaments after playing 6 hours. He beat McEnroe in a 6-hour match at Davis Cup in Argentina, 6-hour match. And tremendous constitution, but now he's been diagnosed, and he's 68 now, with cognitive decline. And I want to ask you, when I thought about those sodas, and what's your take on the rapid increase of cognitive decline and what we could do about it? And obviously it fits in with our diet and our lifestyle. What else comes to mind, and particularly when someone's diagnosed? Because I know it's terrifying for people to get diagnosed.
It's aluminum, it's fluoride, it's lack of B complex. All of those things add up. But I want to mention, we haven't really talked about how bad it can get, but it can get so bad. I had my favorite patient maybe in the last 5 years was a 60-some-odd-year-old man who was brought in a wheelchair. Wow. I couldn't have made the diagnosis. It would have taken me days to figure out what was wrong.
Yeah.
He'd been diagnosed with advanced Parkinsonism, but he couldn't talk and he couldn't stand.
Mm.
And so I put him on a gamma PEMF device by itself for 2 hours or more a day, and 1 month later he walked into the clinic. That's how good it is. Now, I also, of course, put him on a good B complex and some vitamin C and some D3, because you need all of those things also for the brain to be able to respond.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, one of my friends who's a physical therapist has combined both the Holos cranial electrical stimulator, which I've used since 1975 for depression, with the gamma PEMF device, and it is the greatest combination in the world for the most severe anxiety. It will take a person from almost having a seizure with their anxiety to being calm and relaxed within an hour.
Wow.
That's significant. That's significant.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, that was that. There was a movie years ago with Burt Reynolds where I guess this woman's having a panic attack at the furniture store, and she asked if anybody had a Prozac or or Valium. She asked if Valium, and everybody reaches in their pocket for her. Everyone at the store was on Valium, and I realized, like, early in my life, I just got what's that? Not exactly. No, I was always really scared. I remember going through really bad anxiety, but I didn't want to get on the medications. And I got really curious. And, of course, when I came across Dr. Norm Shealy's books, we'll give out the website in a moment, by the way, and it will be on my website. We're gonna have an amazing write-up on the Vibrant Longevity Community, which you could be a part of, and it will infuse you. It will give you momentum. You'll meet some amazing people that really are professionals and other people that just want to live this lifestyle. It's a way of life. So Valium was very hot back in the 70s. That was it was all out there for everything. I remember that I went to this movie with Patty Duke. What was it called? A very famous movie with Patty Duke, and it was all about people that are addicted to the Valium. And they never talked about nutrition. They never talked about antidotes. And as a matter of fact, Xanax, when Xanax came on the market, I think in the 80s or the 90s, they said, Consumer Reports said, well, this is the least problematic. But as time went on, Xanax became problematic. And I forgot what that general field is, but there's a general field that they always come up with something for people who have anxiety or extreme anxiety that's usually pretty addictive. What's your comments about these medications, this group of medications?
Drugs suck, and I'm being kind because I'm here. And, I mean, basically, I have never, ever, ever, ever liked any of them. Antidepressants suck. Antidepressant drugs are among the worst in the world. They increase the risk of suicide, among other things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anti-anxiety drugs are worse. They make you want to die whether or not you're able to commit suicide. I have my life for the last 50 years. This is, by the way, October 15th is the 50th anniversary of my jumping out of the box. And
Congratulations.
I, from the beginning, have weaned people from all drugs. I don't know a drug in the world that I like or can recommend beyond an acute illness.
It's challenging because a lot of times, there was a book, I think it was called The Myth of the Second Opinion, and that was one of the points of the book, is that it's so hard to get a second opinion when everybody's ordering from the same pharmaceutical supply or looking at the exact same reference point. That's all about medications.
In my opinion, there's only one second opinion. It comes from a holistic physician.
Yeah.
Don't bother if they're not holistic.
Yeah.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. Yeah, we're going to get the
when you
holistic
see
dental
the side
association.
effects, the side effects of the drugs are the effects. I mean,
exactly.
I listen to and they riddle them off at the end of these commercials, and quickly, and I think there's just not enough money in the world to even get me to want to try one of them.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't you, Uncle Norm? Why don't Dr. Norm Shealy's with us, and you could be a part of this. Get your vision book out. Start to write. What do you aspire to? If you could grow younger, write about that. Tune into that. Who are the people that are inspiring you, that are living beyond their chronological age? The chronological age myth is something that we buy into. This notion that we keep degenerating, and we could turn that around. And there's many, many incredible resources we'll share with you, and you'll have community. What's the website you want people to go to about your wonderful work, Dr. Shealy?
Well, actually, the easiest one to get them to understand is normshealy.com. Our actual website is realholisticdoc.com, but that's a mouthful. normshealy.com will take up to that website.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Lisa, you have anything that you're bubbling with you want to share before we give people the high five for the day?
No, just every day count your blessings, see the day as a beautiful day, and listen to the wisdom of your heart, and know your own inner truth and claim your personal sovereignty. I think that's my mantra for the week, and I'm grateful to both of you for the inspiration and the gifts that you share with so many.
Well,
Norm, do you want to say anything to the people?
Blessings to everyone. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Your life is precious. Enjoy it. Thank you, Lisa and Uncle Dr. Norm Shealy. Join us. That's all I could say. Be part of this community. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening to PRN.FM and my expanding network. Stay tuned. I'll let you know about the update of the new website with all our programs. My best. God bless.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
God bless.